I had been active in the center, been on a couple committees, and also I was teaching rapid reading, speed reading up here at the center. And it was a very popular course that I started and did for a number of years here. And they came to me and asked me to be on the board. And I was very honored to be asked to be on the board, and I wanted to meet with the executive director and really find out what that meant. And Saul Garland, I met with him, and then I think he was on the way out, and Ben Strelcher was coming in as the executive director. And I also met with Myron Schultz, who was the chairman or president of the board at that time. And I knew several people before that, Lenny Hirschman, Bob DeWitt, and a couple other people. My cousin, Jack Rieger, of blessed memory, had been president of the board back in 1948. I was honored to be asked to be on the board, and it was interesting. A lot of things had been predetermined what was going to happen, and the board was more of a rubber stamp, which I was a little bit disappointed in. I thought we could really discuss things and have some input into it. We eventually got more input as the executives changed and new people came in. And I thought that was exciting because we did help with a lot of new projects that were coming on. And so from 1979 to 1993, I was a board member. I was on probably 5 or 6 different committees at that time. And then I became vice president. And when I became vice president, I realized we were moving into the new building and there was a lack of membership. When we opened the building, we had several thousand people come through the first couple of weeks. We did not take a very aggressive approach on asking people to join right then. Take your paper home, fill it out, send it back. At the end of a month, we had a few hundred people who had joined. So I went to Ronnie Baker, who was now the president of the board, and to Dave Belzer, who was the executive director, and said, let me take over this committee. And they said, what are you going to do? I'm not going to keep anybody on the committee. I'm starting a new committee, and we're going to call it How to Get Members, basically. And they said, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to invite like 6 people to the board, maybe 7 to this committee, and we will strategize how to bring in new members and fill this place within a year. How are you going to do that? I said, I'm going to have meetings on Tuesdays and Thursday night for the next 3 weeks. I'm inviting people like Bob Bernstein from Bernstein Rain, Skip Rain, Howie Boasberg, Art Katz, and a couple of people from business, I can't remember their names now, to help us figure out how to do this strategy, make a marketing campaign to do this. Also, Marion Scheer was on this committee because she was vice president of publicity and advertising and that area, public relations. She called me up a day afterwards and she said, I've got a perfect person to help you. And his name is Marvin Lippman. And I said, we can't afford him. She said, call him. I said, he's too expensive. I know what he does for country clubs. She said, call him. He's going to make a deal for you. So I called him. So I said, I hear you want to help us. He said, yes. So I said, what are you going to charge us? He said, nothing. I said, well, that's nice. Why? He said, Howard, when I was young, I was in BBYO. I was a good basketball player, so I played on not only the BBYO, the AZA team, but also on a team at the center. And we got to go to different cities. We got to go to Omaha, we got to go to Denver, we got to go to St. Louis and elsewhere. And my parents never said anything about who paid for it, but I always assumed they paid for it. And so after I graduated high school, I thanked my mom for taking care of us. And she said, don't thank me. We had no money. Well, who paid for it? The community, the center paid for it. So she said, someday you're going to have to pay it back because they took care of you. No one knew about it. There's other families that did the same thing. They couldn't afford it, and the center took care of them. So he says, I'm going to pay it back. I said, wow, thank you so much. So he says, I said, are you going to do all this work and recruit all the people? He said, no, I've got a super salesman who works for me. His name is Sid Learbaum. And he's the guy, and the quote is, he can sell ice to the Eskimos. And so I met him. I was very impressed. So took it to the board, and they loved the idea of having a free person to do this. All he wanted was an office at the center, and he was going to help everything. And we had, at that time, every department was using different color paper to print things on. So he coordinated that. He helped do a better job of making it look professional instead of amateurish. And he was just all over the center and all over the J at that time, really working hard on bringing things together to make it more cohesive. And he also worked on press releases for us, and he did all sorts of things. He helped Sandy Zorlinski, who was our director of publicity at that time, public relations. And it worked out great. So Sid was here early in the morning to late at night. So I said, why do you come in here early in the morning? I said, we don't have any new people coming into the building. He said, no, we got members. I said, if they're already a member, what are you doing? He said, I walk with them, I run with them, work out with them, swim with them. And hey, listen, can you help us get, you got some friends, some relatives, can you help us get some more members? And he said that was working out okay. But he and Marvin came with a brilliant idea. Member, get a member. If you get a member, they get 1 month free because they're coming in, but also you get 1 month free. And that just took off unbelievably. We had a lot of people then wanting that extra month. We had some people that got 4 and 5 months free, but what difference did it make because they brought in members? And so we were short a lot of people at that time to be members. Fortunately, we started this in February of 1989 or 1990, I don't remember. But anyway, we started working on it, and 6 or 8 months later, Marvin calls me and he said, I want to talk to the board. I got an idea that we're filling up very quickly, and I want an article in the Chronicle saying we're going to have to close the membership in the near future. I said, Marvin, we're not even halfway there. He says, we'll get there. So he meets with the committee one more time and says, what do people want that they can't have? Why do people join a country club versus joining the center? Well, we got an indoor pool. They don't. They've got dining. We don't. They got a golf course. We don't. He said exclusivity. So then he came to the board and went through the same drill. People want to be where they can't belong. If we can announce by next January or February that we're completely full, people are going to rush to get in. So sure enough, we had an article in the Chronicle, a nice article saying the center is filling up very rapidly. The board is looking at a date to close the membership because we're so full. And we got a push there. And then we had an article in January saying that we are almost full. We're closing. The membership will be closed to new members effective on February 15th or 16th. We had a rush like you couldn't believe it. We had to have extra people helping sign people up and giving tours because Sid couldn't handle all of himself. So it was nice. On the 15th, we were actually oversubscribed. We had more members than we could actually take care of, we felt. But we got people calling up, oh, I meant to call you last week. I was supposed to get my niece or my nephew or my children involved. Can you help us? And so one man called and he said, I'm a member of the center, but I never got my family just moved to town and they need to be in the preschool and they need a para. So we don't have any paras available. I'm paying for it and I'll pay for 2 of them if we can get us in. And I'll make a building fund contribution. So he made a bigger building fund contribution and got it done. And so we got the family in. But we had, for probably 6 or 7 months, we actually had a waiting list of people trying to get in the center. So that was phenomenal. So as fate would have it, the person in front of me who was supposed to be president had to drop out for business reasons. He said, I'm too busy with what I'm doing. I'm traveling a lot. I can't do it. So in 1993, I was asked if I wanted to become president of the board. And I said, sure, I'd be happy to do it. And it was actually supposed to happen in 1992. And we were going to meet with Dave Belzer to talk about who I would have for officers if I wanted any new people coming on the board. And we were going to meet the day after Labor Day. And unfortunately, he passed away that morning. Stan Weiner, blessed memory, who was president of the board, called me and he said, have you heard about Dave? And I said, no. He said, he just passed away a couple hours ago. Very shocking. So, because I knew he'd been in Omaha visiting his family. So, the good trip that he had, then he came back and passed away that morning. So, I told Stan, we can't bring in a new director and a new president at the same time. Why don't you keep this until March? Stay president until March. And he said, okay, I'll do that. But you're going to be in every meeting with me. I said, that's fine. I'd like to do that. So, we did it. We interviewed a lot of people, including Ellen Court. And in my mind, Ellen ranked above everybody else. But we had to bring 3 people or 2 people back in for second interviews. We brought them back in. We brought Ellen back in. And there was no question, it was unanimous that Ellen would become the executive director. So she got installed the same time I got installed. She was installed as executive director, and I was installed as president of the center. And we worked very well together. It was a very exciting time because I'm an activist. I like a lot of new ideas. I like adopting them. So it worked very well.